Hey, I know you just got rolling into this market analysis, but I want to touch on something that I mentioned on the previous slide. I said that the list price to sales price percentage did not take into consideration any closing costs paid. So what do I mean when I say that? So when a buyer buys a home, they incur costs that the bank charges them to borrow the money. That is called closing costs. So many times buyers will save up all their money and they have 5% down or 10% down or 20% down, but that's it. There's nothing more. They're like, this is it. Well, they still have to pay their closing costs. And that's usually someplace between, $1,800 to $3,000. It just depends on the lending institution. Well, the federal government has made it illegal for borrowers, home buyers, to get their money from a credit card advance or borrow the money for that or get it from a family member. The only legal way they can get closing costs taken care of or paid for them is from a seller. So how I explain that to my buyer clients is, hey, the seller doesn't want to pay your closing costs. That's just a fact. So you're going to need to pay however much your closing costs are. You're going to have to pay that over the price of the house in order to get the seller to pay those. So over the price that you would have normally paid. So if a house is listed at $150 and maybe the buyer and seller we're going to agree at $148, well then they really need to say, I'm going to pay you $150. I want to get $2,000 back. That's how that works. And just so you know, as a seller, when an offer comes in like that, sometimes you do get a negative feeling about, I don't want to pay their closing costs. Let's just remove that because there is a way that we can go about it. And I net those closing costs right out of the price so you can see really what you're getting for the house. I think that it's so important to do that because we as realtors, our jobs are to help collaborate and work with buyers and sellers to make a transaction happen. And that's a really simple one to work with. So I just wanted to explain that because so many people talk about closing costs and maybe they don't really understand that. But that's how buyer can get their closing costs paid. And in a video that you'll see a little bit later, you'll be able to see if a transaction that happened that closed and maybe I used in the market analysis or otherwise, you'll see if closing costs were paid. I point that out right where you can see it. So anyway, enjoy watching the rest of the analysis.